The truth. With Love, Meghan is a flop, and the only reason we'll have to endure a second series is because it has already been filmed. Meghan's truth. Her dreadfully dreary cooking drivel is such an international smash hit that thrilled Netflix bosses have commissioned a second helping. The delighted Duchess duly treated us to a celebratory post on Instagram. An epic feat of gaslighting make-believe for which Her Montecito Majesty deserves an Oscar. But here's the real deal. In its first 5 days, Ms Markle's disastrously dull dirge with recipes for ice cubes and bath salts was watched by 526,000 households. Pretty feeble in global terms. By comparison, in the 5 days following the 2022 release of the imaginatively titled Harry and Meghan, the Sussexes' slavery-obsessed documentaries pulled in an audience of 2.1 million. Don't know about you, but what I conclude from these starkly contrasting statistics is that Harry is the main attraction, not Meghan. OK, old Ginger Nuts is a bit dim and not that inherently interesting, but he's fifth in line to the British throne and carries with him the charisma of the royal family. Meanwhile, Meghan used to be in Suits. That's it. And therein lies the problem. The Duchess of Sussex simply isn't a big enough star. Minus Harry, she doesn't amount to a hill of showbiz beans. With Love, Meghan was never going to succeed just because of her way too minor celebrity status. It needed to be good. It needed to be compelling. Sadly, toweringly tedious and tragically irrelevant. It was anything but good. And definitely not compelling. It was terrible. Good only as a cure for insomnia. After failing to make the top of the Netflix viewing charts, merely limping in at number 6, Meg's swirling mass of ridiculous recipes soon plummeted out of the top 10. Incredibly, it fared better in Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia than where it counts in America, Canada and Britain, as proved by the avalanche of shocked dismay on TikTok. Young people hated it. The group that turned out to be mildly interested in how to make ladybird-shaped canapés were between the ages of 45 and 54, middle-aged, middle class. That's a TV catastrophe, the demographic no one in the entertainment industry cares about. Frankly, I'm surprised anyone as young as 45 tuned in. Seemed to me all that cosy claptrap revolving around beeswax candles and rainbow sprinkles was aimed at octogenarian grannies. A relentless tsunami of vegetable chopping. It was all so stupefyingly pointless. Now the streaming giant's executives are getting worried amid reports they bitterly regret handing Meghan and her spare part husband a $100 million contract. The returns on this massive investment have been, to say the least, meagre. And it doesn't look as if With Love, Meghan stands even a remote chance of turning things around. Privately, Netflix chiefs are harbouring serious doubts that Meghan's lacklustre ratings can be an effective launchpad for her hastily renamed online store As Ever, in which they have a financial stake. To make matters even worse, health experts have warned that the Duchess's method of mixing up bath salts should not be tried at home. They say that her haphazard homemade concoction of Epsom and Himalayan salt with a bit of arnica and lavender oil chucked in could be dangerous and burn the skin. So folks, please be careful. And finally, remember Her Royal Lowness's haughty command to her alleged friend Mindy Kaling that she must from now on be referred to as Meghan Sussex? It's just not working out. Apart from Olympic-class sycophant Drew Barrymore, nobody is paying a blind bit of notice, nor should they. Meghan will always be a Markle, and what's wrong with that? What she will never be is a proper star. Meg, you're married to Harry, a prince's wife, and not a whole lot more. Get used to it. And now, Samara, we've just heard, this just in, folks, she's unleashed, she's going to impose on us another one of her dreary podcasts. What's this all about?
I know, I thought we were safe for at least a couple more weeks, but alas, we are not. Look, she didn't learn anything from the failure of her Spotify podcast, which is all about interviewing Paris Hilton and asking what a bimbo is. This new one is called Confessions of a Female Founder. I don't know what she's founded.
Isn't a founder a fish?
Well,
It's a flounder.
that would be.
Okay.
Well, she's
Maybe that's what it's called. Are you sure it's not called
I don't know,
Confessions
she's been
of
cooking
a
that
Female
up.
Flounder?
She's been cooking up some flounder with her friends. That's all she's kind of capable of.
It's fallen flat. It's a flat fish. Yeah. Look,
Other than hitching her wagon to Harry, what has she actually founded? I would really like to know. I mean, what do you think about this podcast? Is it going to be another flop like this?
oh, yeah, that'd be really, really boring. First of all, she's acting like she's a very, very successful founder of companies. Female, I'll grant you, but much of a founder, not really. Everything she's done has failed. And so, Simon, Simon has with love Meghan.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. It's been in the top, as you say, it was in the top 10. It was in number 6.
Number 6, then to number 10. Now it's fallen completely out of the charts.
But in the top 10 of Netflix.
Massive in Latvia.
In top 10.
Mind you, so's what just happened.
Actually, yeah.
In the top 10
in the
top 10 of Netflix shows is, I mean, it's an achievement. You have to say. And also, she's got the second series. Netflix...
Yeah, but they already filmed it.
But
she gaslit us. She pretended. She put on Twitter as if she... Or X, as if... Or Instagram, rather, as if she was... oh, yeah, I've just found out with her arms. Yes, I'm getting a second series. She knew she had a second series because they'd already filmed it. It was already in the can. Of course they're going to put it out. It's cheap.
That doesn't mean to say that she will get it. If it had been a massive, massive failure, they could have held back the second series. So it must have done something for Netflix to believe that they want to put it out.
Rubbish.
They could have held it back. We didn't know there was we didn't know there was going to be a second series. So something must have happened.
She did, though.
No,
she did.
If it hadn't worked out, they could have held it back, and they've decided not to.
Didn't she, Samara? She lied to us.
Absolutely.
Pretending, I've just had my second series commissioned. No, it's already in the can. The reason they're going to put it out, Simon, by the way, is it's in the can, very cheap, ready to roll.
Correct. So, you know what I was just about to say? The podcast should be called Confessions of a Female Failure, because that's what she is. What's actually happened is that they put a second season in the can because they've realised that they had no products ready to go at the end of this season. Yeah. So they've had to kind of hastily film probably another section of this show in order to then put the products. Because I tried to look online and it's like, oh, will be available in spring. It doesn't have a year of what spring that will be. I think this is all just some sort of, as you said, last minute cash grab. And it's really like, come on, Meghan, like just be upfront with us. This is what was missing in the show, authenticity. Come on.
What this has proved is, like I say, she just doesn't have the status. Now, there are stars around who are so big that they can foist upon us absolute rubbish, and it'll probably do all right because they're so famous and so loved around the world. In fact, Harry, loathsome ginger nut creep that he is, does have a lot of pulling power because he's a member of the British royal family. That is big. But she's got nothing. She's just married to Harry. That's all it is. And that is not enough to sustain a very boring series. As I said, it had to be good. It had to be compelling. It was neither.
However, we may argue about the second series idea. American TV is ruthless. They've pulled off series halfway through when they've been transmitting.
It's not really American TV, is it? It's global.
Then the second thing.
No, but Netflix don't do it. It's not really American TV. It's global television.
Okay, but even more reason to pull
Massive
it
in Latvia.
Or even more reason to pull it if it's flopping. There's another thing as well. You said
Netflix don't. You can't mischaracterise that. Netflix never do that, and it's not an American production. It's a global production.
Sorry,
so you can't judge it by the standards of American terrestrial television.
But they don't have
it's a totally different entity.
But they don't have to put out the second series. That's the point that I'm trying to make. The second point that you said...
Well, they might as well.
Yeah, they might as well, but they don't have
exactly.
to. They don't have to. The second point that I'm trying to make is they don't have to if it's damaging to their brand, and they obviously don't think she's damaging their brand to put it out. The second point I want to make is...
big achievement.
You said that they don't... You said that it's not hit home with the with young people, and they've all slammed it, and it's done well between the 45-55 bracket.
Yeah.
that is the bracket with money. That is the bracket that will
Yeah,
buy
but it's
stuff.
not the bracket
That is
of
the
TV.
bracket who are-
TV people don't care about 45
No,
to 50.
and that is
Well, you know that.
I
It's
know.
like the grey pound. No one cares about it.
No, but ultimately, those are the people with money who will
The
buy
entertainment
stuff.
industry is for young people, and you know it.
Yeah.
The studios, the TV companies, what they want is the 16s to 34s. They're not that interested in 45 to 54. If you're appealing to 45 to 54s, that is technically known as a flop, isn't it, Samara?
Yes, and they engaged
And
him.
it's not, then, by the way, sorry to interrupt, but
No,
they're
no.
not particularly appealing to 45 and 54s. It's just that more people in that age brackets watch than any other age bracket.
Yeah, I think exactly. I was thinking about why this has been such a flop, and I think it's because everyone loves the mystery of the royal family, but when you start to peel back the curtain, you realize how boring it is. And I think that when we look at with Meghan, there's no humour in that show. There's absolutely,
right, you're right about
you
that.
know, actually,
It is so human.
I'd agree with that.
Meghan Kelly peeled back one of the editing techniques that they've actually used on With Love Meghan, and they realised that they had to insert Meghan asking questions to her guests every time. It's actually an edited over insertion because there are no instances of her actually asking anything about her guest. So it's a personality problem here. It's not a production problem. It's not a problem with Netflix. It's because Meghan's just bloody boring.
However, though, Samara, I wouldn't mind having my own series recommissioned, being in the top 10 of Netflix, dropping out after number 6, and appealing to 500,000 people with a demographic that is
500,000.
solidly 45 to 54. You can spin that any way you like it. The whole world has been talking about Meghan Bloomin' Sussex
talk
and
about it. Yeah, no.
and her show, and Netflix must feel that there is cachet in that to keep it going.
This is where Netflix are dismayed and disappointed. And I can see where they've been coming from. You know, people know who Meghan is. There's a fascination with her. That's why we do so much about her on this show. I mean, I find her interesting, except I find her boring, if you see what I mean. I find her interesting. I find Harry and Meghan interesting. So they automatically, this couple, attract a whole load of publicity. So given that, that's why Meghan got her show in the first place. Netflix would have hoped that this show could have succeeded because you got pre-publicity like no one else would get, and yet, Samara, it's flopped. Because, as Shakespeare said, the play's the thing, and it's boring.
Precisely. I mean,
I don't
Catherine...
think he said the last bit.
Well, Catherine Ryan...
Is that in any Shakespeare? This is boring. King Lear.
You know it's bad when...
As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport. This is boring. Is that in Shakespeare?
No, I don't think so.
The first bit was.
Yes. But you know it's bad when Netflix's own comedians like Catherine Ryan, who has a big contract with Netflix, has come out on her podcast and said, look, come on, Megs. Just tell us that you bagged a prince, and this is your Montecito life you're living. Yeah. Stop lying to us.
However,
the younger people would like a little bit of authenticity, please.
Yeah.
Like, it's getting to a point of ridicule. And
She should just call herself Meghan married to Harry.
What is the point?
That's all she is.
But what is the
That's
point?
all she is.
What is the point of ridicule is being on the show, and it may very well be my last show, but being on the show, and she has
You're fired.
She has got a second series, and that is a flop, and it's a failure, and you two cannot see that in any way as a success. Whereas last week, when we were talking about it, if you hadn't known that and Netflix said, we're not putting out the second series that we filmed, you would have said
you're
exactly
really
the same.
clinging on to that, aren't you?
No, but I'm
It's like
trying...
a fingernail.
but
I'm just clinging on.
I'm trying
here.
to point...
Clinging on
I'm
to
trying to
this
point out
minor point.
I'm trying to point out the absurdity of... She's got a second series. That's a flop. It's a failure. She didn't get a second series. That would have been a flop and a failure, and you'd have been even happier. So she cannot win. This is a boring show. I wouldn't watch it. I don't find it fascinating at all. People think I defend her or anything else. But I'm just here to defend the principle that if you attack somebody all the time, then you get into this absurdity.
We're not the only ones.
You get into this absurdity of she's got a second series, it's a flop. She's a failure.
It will be a flop. By that time that series comes up, no one will give a damn. No one. Let's talk about this podcast though. She's going to interview what's it called? Confessions of a Female Flounder.
Yeah.
Oh no, Founder. I'm sorry.
That's much better.
Confessions of a Female Fish. She's going to interview other female business tycoons.
Yes.
About the secret of success in they're going to give advice. Well, they should give advice to her because she hasn't got a clue, has she?
Well, she goes, they're opening up, they're sharing their tips, tricks, and tumbles, and letting me pick their brains as I build my own business. It's like, oh my God.
But that's true, isn't it? She's trying to launch businesses. They're going wrong.
Very poorly.
They're going wrong. Now she's going to ask people how to do it. And I remember.
Well, why is she turning that into a TV or podcast entertainment? That's not interesting.
Because somebody is prepared to pay for it, and it is interesting.
Limonada.
There are people out there.
They won't be pleased.
Seth Godin, Richard Branson, Stephen Bartlett. They all do these things.
Those are all people I want to hear from when it comes to business.
There you go.
I want to hear from Meghan Markle.
This isn't going to work.
Well, who's paid for this? Again, who bankrolls?
Limonada, I think.
Who bankrolls her ideas? People feel, not you two, but there are, and not a great deal of our audience, judging from the comments, there are a lot of people out there who find her fascinating and want to pay money to let her.
There aren't that many people, though.
But she's got another series.
Oh, so what? How many more times?
You're really missing the
Stop
mark.
making out that's a big thing.
It is a big thing.
It isn't, and you bloody well know it.
Simon, you're missing the mark.
God, I'm glad this is your last show.
You don't have another series.
It might not be his last show. He's going to come back from time to time, folks.
You don't have another.
I thought I'd better warn you.
You don't have another series. You flopped. You've got a second series. You flopped. That is the very definition.
Well, for the last time,
you
shut
can't
up.
win.
It's time for a bad ad.
Garlic, the plant that is famous for its unusual smell and medicinal properties, has an interesting history. Sanskrit records show Indians used garlic for its powers 5,000 years ago. Egyptian slaves stopped work on the pyramids when their daily supply of garlic ran out. Would you like to try garlic, but are put off by the smell? Then try odor-free Kyolic. Kyolic, the king of garlic, you can get from health food stores and chemists. I take Kyolic every day.
Another fantastic advert
He looks like a vampire.
from Australia.
He's a German guy.
Yeah, I know, but that's an Australian. By the way, he sounded Australian. He sounded like a...
But anybody...
Yes, he did. That's an Australian advert. That's a fact. You can't sort of dispute that.
Would anybody like some Kyolic bread?
Do you... Kyolic
bread?
I don't know.
Anyone?
I literally grew up in a health food shop where it was like, oh, you're literally on death's bed. Have a garlic tablet. Like, yeah, I'm pretty traumatized by seeing that. Thank you, producer.
You literally grew up in a health food shop. Well, like Holland and Barrett or something.
It's worse. Like one of those backdoor
ones. I wish
ones.
I could leave this health
One of
food
those
shop.
a backdoor health shop.
Backdoor health food shop.
Backdoor health food shop. And on that backdoor bombshell, it's time for some real ads. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back to What Just Happened. This is part 2 when we do the big moment, the biggest story of the week. Now, this past week, I don't need to tell you, there's been some massive stories. Obviously, the Ukraine peace talks, Russia's response, the tariff wars, Donald Trump slapping tariffs on everybody who dared to look at him, and so on and so forth. So millions of very, very big stories. But for visual reasons alone, I just thought this was an interesting story. Perhaps not the biggest story of the week, but it's not often you see the White House turned into a car showroom. So all of a sudden, in the middle of this tumultuous week of serious news, you got Elon Musk and Donald Trump standing outside the White House with 2 Teslas. Take a look.
It's a big deal. That's great. Thank you. And by the way, he makes one car. This one I don't understand. This one I don't want, but that's okay. Without a steering wheel. It comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Explain that, please.
Yes. Well, the Cybercab starts production in Texas next year, and it's self-driving. We have so much confidence in the self-driving nature of it that it will actually not have a steering wheel. It will not have pedals. It'll either self-drive or not drive at all.
Is that any way to dress when you go to the White House?
Ooh.
Don't you have a suit?
Yeah, hasn't he got a suit?
He has a suit and he has a child, a mini-me, that he takes everywhere as well.
The White House has 2-tier sartorial...
I mean, this was the lowest of the low. A grifting president with his crying mate.
Look, I was about to say something very funny and clever there.
Go on.
The White House has 2-tier sartorial justice.
Ooh,
There you go.
yeah.
Now you can make
Yes.
your asinine observation.
Thank you very much. You know, Elon Musk crying because people are boycotting Tesla and destroying his property and everything else. You know, it's different because the people in the insurrection of January the 6th, they were patriots, but the people who were protesting, they're radical lefty militants who deserve to be locked up. And the fact that the president comes out with it to buoy up his unelected...
His boy?
Yeah, buoy up his boy, this unelected administrator who's making people's lives a misery. I don't think that you could denigrate the office of president anymore by doing what they've done.
But Doge is a good thing. We could do with some Doge.
We could do with some Doge. You know, but it needs to be done properly, and it should be done with somebody who's an elected representative, not somebody who's received millions of government handouts himself.
Well, you know, I'm not convinced about that. I mean, if the president, he's elected, if he chooses people to carry out his bidding, that's the way it goes. Would you get a Tesla, Samara?
Well, I would, yeah, absolutely.
Those ones that look like the Blade Runner.
Yeah, I love those trucks. They're just not approved in the.
And I would
Europe,
damage it.
I think Saturday Night Live is going to have a lot of fun with this next week because Mike Myers has been playing Elon Musk, and I've really been enjoying it. He's playing like Dr. Evil with the little kid, but it's kind of a laughable moment. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't really take much of it seriously. Judging by Trump's body language, he doesn't even look like he wants to be there. So,
yeah. What I would say about it is, I've got a lot of time for Elon Musk, and I've got a lot of time for Donald Trump as well. But to what Elon Musk has found out, if you're a businessman, he's the richest man in the world, and you hitch your wagon to a political figure, and let's face it, he's welded his wagon to Donald Trump. So, you know, he obviously espouses a certain political outlook or right-wing outlook. People who are not right-wing will stop buying your products. So what he's found out is by going political, Tesla, which was soaring on the stock market, its stock value, its share price has halved. He's lost something like $130 billion.
Yeah.
No. Oh no. Do you think he'll be okay?
Well, yeah, he will be okay. But I'm not shedding a tear from him. I'm just saying it is an interesting. A lot of businessmen, you know, if you talk to tycoons, they're as a man pretty damn right wing. You know, they want small government, leave us alone, leave the rich guys to do what we want to do. That they all want that, but very few of them come out in public and say it because they want to keep their products neutral.
Yes.
And people who are not minded to support Donald Trump are now not minded to buy Teslas. You know what I mean?
Totally. I feel like the optics of this are pretty interesting because the Republican Party, you've lived through a few US presidents.
Yeah.
The Republicans, it's hilarious to think about an electric car outside the White House with a Republican president. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. The Tesla buyers were always these like left-wing people. But
that's what I love. But I love that. I love that spectacle that only Donald Trump would do that. Turn the White House into a car showroom.
There is that phrase, bleep around, bleep out, or find out. Bleep around, find out. And Elon Musk is finding out. I think you've encapsulated that brilliantly. He's gone political, and now you know.
Well, it won't make any difference. He'll carry on regardless. Now, listen, Ronald Reagan once said brilliantly, and I think it's really apposite in terms of what we've been witnessing for the last couple of weeks. He said, peace is easy. All you've got to do is surrender. Anyway, Trump, of course, has been aggressively pursuing peace in Ukraine. And here he is announcing that ceasefire.
Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also. And we can get this show on the road.
Look, I am four square behind Donald Trump and his acolytes' bid to get peace in Ukraine. Nobody wants to see that horrible war continue. And I don't mind the fact they pushed Zelensky around, bullied him, if you want to use that stupid phrase, forced him to be compliant. And I don't mind that has forced Zelensky or Ukraine into saying, yeah, we'll take a 30-day ceasefire, no questions asked, no conditions. I think it's good that we got to this point. The problem is, I don't think Trump really ever factored this in properly, is Putin is never going to allow himself to be treated just like he's Zelensky. You know, here's the big American president. Right, you two, you're going to have peace, and I say so.
So do you think Trump showed his hand too early in saying what he wanted? I think he mucked up there, really. I think that ultimately, by kind of going after Zelensky a bit as a bit of payback for what had happened at the end of his presidency, I think he took his eye off the ball with Putin, and he gave Putin sort of tacit approval to go and do all these things. And reeling that back is going to be really hard. And I think that ultimately Trump, I can't believe I'm saying this, comes from a good place. He wants there to be peace, and he wants to be seen. He'd love to win a Nobel.
Can't knock him for wanting peace.
He wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize. But ultimately, in this kind of sort of bull in a china shop way that he goes about stuff, I mean, he really gave Putin a window there to sort of... and Putin just cannot be trusted. Time and time again, he has proven this. And I think he's pulled the wool over Don's eyes a bit.
I'll partly go along with that. I don't think that, they're not stupid in the way, as they knew that perhaps Russia would present a bit more of a problem in persuading than Ukraine. But I don't know what you think, Samara, but I just think they may have underestimated the severity of Putin's response. Putin, ever since that announcement, we've got an agreement from Ukraine, Putin has just been going hell for leather to prove this war continues, the bombing continues, the fighting continues, and the word from the Kremlin now is that peace is a long, long way off. Now, the interesting thing about that is it means that Ukraine has retained American backing, because all Trump ever said was, I want to see that Zelensky is sincere about wanting peace. Zelensky has made that clear. He has bowed to every demand from Trump.
Finally.
It is Putin that patently does not want peace. So from now on, Trump and Vance and the gang, they're going to have to set their sights on the Kremlin, not Ukraine.
No, it's good. They've put Ukraine in their place, finally. That was a long time coming. And I think, they were taking the US for a ride. There's no mistake about that.
All of us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting. We think Trump's this optics guy. Putin is just as big of an optics man as Trump. So all this, the bombing and the turning up to Kursk overnight and showing himself, that's all just to show his people that he's become a strong man in this situation and he's got the upper hand. But really, I think Trump does on the international stage, because he has now put it all on Russia. I think we always blame Boris Johnson for not accepting a peace deal back in 2020 over the Ukraine-Russia war. We then blame Zelensky for not coming to the table. Now he said, you know what? The ball's publicly in Russia's court. If Russia now doesn't come to the table and accept that, then yes, the whole world will then turn on Russia and say, yeah, this is your fault. Great. Yeah. I mean, it's always been their fault, but there are some Russian factions of the border that we really need to consider in this conflict.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is that the other aspect of this is, of course, Russia's demanding all the territory it's always wanted.
Yeah.
And frankly, Zelensky's going to have to give that up. But the fact
I've been to some of those areas. They want to be part of Russia.
There's some good news for Americans, though. Donald Trump celebrating, quite rightly. Fantastic. Because Trump is now the president, Rosie O'Donnell has quit America. Yes! Here she goes.
I miss my other kids. I miss my friends. I miss many things about life there at home. And I'm trying to find a home here in this beautiful country. And when, it is safe for all citizens to have equal rights there, in America, that's when we will consider coming back.
Well, she's moved to Ireland. Poor Ireland. She's got about 20 kids. She just left them. I'm off. You know, I've got my virtue to signal. Never mind my kids. I've got to prove to everyone how wonderful and left-wing I am. Brilliant. It's amazing, isn't it? Isn't she amazing?
You know my views on this.
She's like Ellen DeGeneres. She's
what I was about to
amazing
say.
as well.
You know my views
it's
on
amazing when they leave America because they don't like Donald Trump, bunch of
my views on this. I think that if you hate a regime and you're opposed to that regime,
move to Ireland.
No, what you should do is you should stand up to it. You should make a case. You should argue. You should debate like we do here. You don't take it lying down, running away from that, unless you really feel that your life's in danger.
But they're in showbiz.
I don't think she takes
they're in
anything lying down.
showbiz. They're in showbiz.
So are we,
they're
darling.
in showbiz. Their virtue must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. They're telling the people how wonderful and brilliant they are. Look at me, I'm so liberal and left-wing, and Donald Trump's horrible and right-wing, and I'm leaving. Jerks. Absolute jerks.
She looks like she's totally regretting her choices there. And this is exactly what we predicted when it came to Ellen. They were like, what she actually was saying, I miss my friends and family. I miss my chilled water, my air conditioning, my mansion that I can have over in the States, my low taxes. That's what she's actually saying she misses.
Well, yeah, maybe. Who cares? Let's get to Donald Trump's reaction to the devastating news that the alleged comedian, she's not funny, is she, Rosie O'Donnell, is leaving for Ireland.
Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happiness level.
It's true. Do you know who she is?
Yeah. I'm joking.
You better off not. You better off not knowing.
Exactly right. I mean, she is one of those alleged comedians, like Ellen DeGeneres. They're supposed to be comedians. They just sort of become people who lecture you about their liberal views, boringly,
It is weird.
earnestly.
It is weird though that he gets involved with stuff like this.
Well, that was a reception for the Irish. All the Irish people were in the White House.
Yeah, but
so that's why that cropped up.
It's kind of beneath him though. They're answering that question just so you can slag somebody off. It's kind of like the Teslas outside. He really denigrates that office. He really does.
Oh,
He does.
It denigrates that office. And on that pompous bombshell, it's time for a bad ad.
Cola has a beautiful taste, so good for beautiful people. Tab Cola, beautiful to you and me, 'cause every can has less than 2 calories. Tab Cola helps a beautiful shape, just right for beautiful people. Tab Cola tastes so good to you. Great taste, low calorie. Tab.
Let's go some real ads. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back, part 3. It's time for viewers' questions.
All right, I've got some interesting questions this week. Kent County Council has wasted £20,000 of on driving lessons for illegal migrants. Is this a good use of taxpayers' money? Kevin, what do you think about this?
I don't think it's a good use of taxpayers' money. This is an absolute outrage. So on my show, The Political Asylum, every night, Monday to Friday, 7 until 10 p.m. on Talk, available all over the world. I highly recommend it. Last night I got a phone call from one of my more regular callers, a guy called Liam. He lives in Folkestone, that's on the south coast of Britain. And it's where all the migrants come across the channel illegally and beach up and claim their right to stay. Always successfully. Anyway, it turns out that that's in the county of Kent, here in Britain. Turns out that the local council, Kent County Council, has spent, it's actually £20,147 or something, on driving lessons, paying for driving lessons for asylum seekers. Now, these are people who technically, they're not sort of official residents of this country. They're temporary. Their asylum application is being processed. It could be refused. Why the hell are we paying for their driving lessons? Why the hell are we paying for their driving lessons anyway, even if they can stay? What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, why is it going on? I mean, I don't think it sounds a good idea, but I don't know whether it's true because it sounds so fanciful.
It is true.
It is true.
No.
Liam put in a freedom of information request. I've got the letter out in my briefcase.
But to what end?
By the way, 3 years ago they spent about 3,000 quid on these freebies. 2 years ago, about 5,000. Yeah. Last year, nearly 21,000.
Why?
So because I'll tell you what it's called asylum support. Over the past 5 years, Britain has spent £6.6 billion on asylum support. That is, these people who break into our country illegally, we then give them driving lessons, driving tests, we give them trips to the cricket, we give them tours around football stadiums, we give them free everything, free hairdos, we give them free food, free everything.
Free SIM cards.
Free SIM cards, free phones.
Free SIM cards to communicate back to the others at home that they're getting free driving lessons.
Free trips to the zoo.
Listen,
it's ridiculous.
Listen, I don't mind that. If
they're not even supposed to be here.
If somebody's come over and they're a refugee, or
why give them a trip to the zoo?
Wait, I'm just about to say that if they're seeking asylum and somebody has been driven out of their own country for political reasons and they're a young kid, I'm not going to stop somebody wanting to give the young kid a trip to the zoo. It's like painting over all the...
I am if I have to pay for it.
But Simon, it's military-age men that are coming over.
No, I'm saying if you tell me, here's a group of military-age men and they're all going to the zoo, I've got a problem with that. But I'm saying if you're taking kids to the zoo, I don't really have a problem with that. But surely this was all under the last government, if it's a Freedom of Information Act that came out from last year.
Well, it's over the last year. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. So, it involves, let's think about it. It involves both governments. It's not, this is not a political issue per se because, the Labour, our socialist government now for the viewers around the world, have made our migrant crisis worse, but the Conservatives, the alleged right-wing party, they're responsible for this. They were a disaster.
So that's where you need Doge. That's where you need...
Yeah. £6.6 billion on free gifts and presents for asylum seekers. These people aren't officially even supposed to be here. They broke into our country illegally. It is ridiculous. Next question.
Foreign prisoners are costing British taxpayers £1 million a day. Why can't we just send them home?
Yeah, so in Britain, I keep having to explain things there further, but it is quite interesting. At least I think it is. No one else does. No, in Britain, we've got something like 80,000 people in prison. Most of them men, very few women, but 80,000 in total. Of that 80,000, 10,000 are foreigners. Many of them former asylum seekers, migrants, illegal migrants. Many of them Albanian. We have to thank our Albanian friends because without it, where would our illegal drug trade be? But seriously, so we've got 10,000 prisoners from abroad, and we've got this prison overcrowding crisis. We have to keep releasing dangerous prisoners early because we just haven't got any cells left. And everybody's getting very light sentencing. People who commit terrible crimes are not being sent to prison because there's no room. So why don't we take every foreigner and just deport them? And therefore we'd have 10,000 cells free. £1 million a day on foreign prisoners. That's mad, isn't it, Simon?
I do think it's mad. I also think that kind of the infrastructure and the whole prison system needs to be looked at. There's not enough prison places.
We need more.
We've got prisons that are kind of Victorian, and there's like a whole load of, I know that you two aren't really up on this, but human rights cases of how our prisons are with the overcrowding and everything else. I do think some people can
That's what I care about, the human rights of prisoners.
think some
I lie awake at night worrying about the human rights of prisoners.
I do think some people can be sent back, but I also think as well that some people can be rehabilitated, and we should be looking at why we're sending so many people to prison. I think that needs an overhaul in itself.
Some people describe our prisons as warehouses where people learn how to be criminals.
Yeah, it's true actually.
And take a lot of drugs.
Yeah, totally. It goes back to okay, we can talk about the human rights of prisoners, but this is foreign prisoners that we're talking about, Simon. And it goes back to the other question. If we were in a period of massive prosperity, like, okay, but people are just getting absolutely micked off by the fact that all our money's going into foreigners.
Exactly. The thing about deporting prisoners, we used to do it. In fact, if we didn't do it, you wouldn't exist.
I was just thinking
we used to deport all our prisoners to Australia.
But
Australia is a nation descended from British prisoners. That is a fact, folks. So you've got a lot to thank us for. We should go back to it and maybe just deport people back to Australia. You got loads of room. I mean, you got this massive country, about 46 people live there.
One thing Australia excels in is deportations. Oh my God, we're great at it. We can do it. You're out, because we don't have the ECHR.
You can have like a colony in the outback or something like that.
My God.
What do you think? Do you like that idea, Simon?
No. Next question.
Well, that was showing. It's pretty hot there, isn't it? This programme. Right, next question, Samara.
St John's Ambulance has told staff to call women people with breasts. Isn't that insulting to women?
No, they've got breasts.
No,
No.
It's insulting to me. I've got moves.
I was going to say, it's really insulting to men with boobs.
This is a disease in our institutions throughout the country. That's particularly our health service, the National Health Service, otherwise known as the National Joke. They won't call women women. They call them people with cervixes, people who menstruate, people who are pregnant, and so on and so forth. People with breasts, St John's Ambulance now called. And this is to do with kowtowing to the trans lobby. I'm all for trans people to be happy. I'm all for trans people to have their rights, trans rights, fine. But their rights seem to be superseding the rights of women. The rights of women to be called women, to be called female. This is getting ridiculous, isn't it, Simon?
And again, not knowing the whole story behind that sensationalist headline.
That's not a sensationalist headline. It's like, look, if you are, I don't know if the last time you went for an X-ray at the NHS, right?
Yeah.
All men, everyone who goes for an X-ray. Now, if you're a woman and you're pregnant, you've just got pregnant or something, it's a very sensible question. Are you pregnant? Because the radioactive rays from an X-ray could damage your unborn child. Now, because of the trans lobby, everyone who goes for an X-ray has to be asked if they're pregnant. So if I or you, Simon, went for an X-ray, the NHS will ask us if we're pregnant. Now, it gets worse. So James Whale, our esteemed colleague here, poor guy's been suffering from terminal cancer now for as long as I can remember, actually. He's amazing. He's fighting an amazingly brave battle. Still with us, still broadcasting. What a guy. But for something like 5-6 years, he's suffered from cancer. So he has to have regular X-rays. Now, the other aspect of James Whale is he's about 73 years old. He's a 73-year-old bald bloke.
Yeah.
Every time he has an X-ray, they have to ask him, are you pregnant?
And is he?
Actually, that's a good question. No, I mean, that is just bloody mad.
Yeah, I mean, that is
this is why that is not a sensationalist headline. It's
no, about the St John's Ambulance.
That's not a sensation.
The St John's Ambulance thing, but I think that there's protocol, there are rules, there are guidelines, and there are just sort of people going.
It's not a guideline in the NHS.
I don't believe that.
There's also a
It's not a guideline.
I don't believe that is. I just kind of. It's
come
so
on,
absurd.
we see this every day in
It's so
every
absurd.
way.
Of course, I'm not going to defend that. It's absurd.
We're going to go to a bad ad.
It stands to reason. If you've worked up an appetite that can't wait, you don't have to wait for Balfour's. Balfour's pies, pasties and sausage rolls, for all the right reasons.
Balfour's pies? Are you keen on Balfour's pies?
That's an Australian man right there.
Yeah.
Just having his pie, doing his construction work, probably getting paid about. All right, that's another very nice man.
Thomas Markle suddenly? Thomas Markle Jr. suddenly cropped up. Sorry, Tom, you're nothing to do with this. Yeah,
having a nice pie, probably earning about 150 quid an hour because that's how much you get paid in Australia because of bloody union bosses.
Bloody union bosses. Listen to you, just
nightmare.
lapsed into
No, it's a
really
nightmare.
broad Aussie.
Yeah, it's just because...
If you go to a nightclub and you encounter guys dressed like that, they might not be quite as masculine as you expect. Time for a real break. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back. It's part 4 of What Just Happened. And as you know, this is the section where we go through your marvellous messages. Once again, thank you for sending them. We get thousands every week. We really appreciate it. And we sift through a few of them and read them out. You first, Simon.
Yep, sorry, forgot my glasses, so I'm just having to make this. Meredith Marino says, I love how Simon keeps blaming the producers while conveniently forgetting that Meghan was the executive producer. I guarantee she pressured the other producers to do as she wants because that is her reputation.
And who is that lady again?
Meredith Marino.
Bloody good point, Meredith. Well done. I should have thought of that. We should have thought of that, Samara. What have you got, Samara?
Nora says, I like Kevin O'Sullivan, but if I was Simon, I'd get the hell out of there. Every time Kevin opens his mouth, he's told to stop interrupting, which he doesn't, and speak, which when he's spoken to. At the same time, Kevin is downright rude to Simon and constantly interrupts and talks over everyone. I mean, what the F, Kevin?
Yeah. I don't think I'm rude to Simon. As you depart, let me say that I don't think you've been particularly good on this programme and you can bugger off. No, actually, I've got to make an announcement. Simon, I hope, will be back from time to time. He's a busy man. He won't be able to come every week. God, this is going to stick in my throat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a blast, seriously.
No, it's been really good fun, and I love our viewers. And let's have some more comments from them here. Hopefully,
go ahead.
Hopefully something nice and positive. And that is... If I can open this one.
Look at this.
I actually like Simon, but please somebody slap him.
We'll do that after the show. I usually do, actually. What you got, Samara? You got another one? No.
Coach has said, why don't you just let Simon speak? He's the only one on the panel who speaks with integrity.
Well, finally, you get praise just as you're going. Next.
This one is from this is from a Davina Danilov, I think. Love your show. Don't like Meghan, but with that said, it's frustrating you're not letting Simon speak and are very rude at times with him. I'm surprised he keeps coming back. Let him speak more. He seems uncomfortable. Be a better show if everyone on the panel can share and talk.
Well, we do share and talk. It's quite funny, all these people saying, I'm surprised he keeps coming back, not going to anymore. I'm going to stress again, he will come back from time to time and he'll be a very... welcome guest, he will be, seriously. Next up, Samara.
You've got a fan club developing.
Was painful, very painful.
67-old coach says, for once, Simon is right. I seriously think Netflix hates her, and having been conned out of $100 million, who can blame them? Yeah, that's so right, yeah.
I bet Netflix is alive with fury. Next up, Simon.
Caroline Dodsworth says, you go, Kevin. I always get a laugh. And just following that up quickly with this one, it's from Erily Flores says, Simon, you are the only one that made fair statements here. Although I don't like Meghan, I feel you are not poisonous and you're not filled with hate as the other two people and Meghan's brother. Also, the old guy never lets you finish a sentence.
The old guy? What do you mean the old guy?
There was no way to have a different opinion from what they were saying. You seem to be a good person.
Well, who's that from?
That is from Erily Flores.
Erily Flores. So I'm the old guy. You and I are full of poison and hate. Oh, thanks for a lovely message.
Yeah, you should see Simon when the cameras switch off.
Yeah, you've got a nicer one, Samara.
Tina said, Simon, don't add arnica oil to your bath without carrier oil. Without a carrier oil, essential oils are very strong. They can be irritating. Meghan doesn't explain it very well. Probably because she doesn't know.
Yeah, well, as I said, there's been a health warning about her because she just chucked it in. You've got to be careful with the amounts. So she's got Himalaya salt, and then she puts arnica oil, lavender oil, and a lot of health experts say you've got to be careful about that. Time for a bad ad.
On some of Australia's biggest engineering projects, you'll find Datsun Patrol in conditions to test the toughest to the limit. Try this with any other four-wheel drive. Datsun Patrol. Built for punishment outside, built for comfort inside. 4-speed all-synchro gearbox, diesel and petrol models. Datsun Patrol. Built like a tank. Feels like a car.
Anything else in Australia apart from construction sites
Not
and
really.
construction men?
The country is
Is
just...
that it? No wonder you left. You, you didn't fit in. Right?
Yeah, no, well, you should have seen me when I was there. I had a hat on, it was all good. No, it's the country's one big construction site.
Exactly right. And on that construction bombshell, that's it. Fond farewell to Simon. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you very much, guys.
Always a pleasure, Samara Gill. We'll be back same time, same place with a new, much better guest. A fantastic edition of What Just Happened. See you then.